Season 2 has come to a turbulent halt, so time for a review. A lot of you know my feelings with all the talking I've done on here for 8 weeks. House of Dragon is in a messy spot. Didn't love the season, also didn't hate it as much as the vocal majority. Only 2 plot lines felt fully explored, and only 3 out of the 8 episodes felt polished enough to rewatch. With 2 episodes less than the first season, you would think story arcs would feel tighter, but most either dragged or were just missing vital parts of the lore. Why did it feel like the most memorable characters from last time around had nothing to do, but kept getting wasteful screen time that you could even call runtime filler? This was supposed to be a fairly easy season to adapt. Season 1 was the real challenge. What happened between the first and second season that drastically affected the writing? Well, quite a bit actually. A showrunner had a dramatic exit. I've talked about it a few times, but 2 men spearheaded this project for HBO. Ryan Condal and Miguel Sapochnik. Miguel, who historically directed some of the biggest battle sequences in Game of Thrones, is out, before the Dance of the Dragons Civil War even began. There was also a writing strike, but we were informed the entire script was completed before the strike. And now, a new rumor has surfaced this week. It seems like this info is coming from Elio Garcia, who works closely with author George R. R. Martin on lore and created Westeros.org. The rumor is HBO made the showrunners cut 2 episodes, possibly for budgeting reasons. And we know the company isn't exactly doing so hot. This forced writers to make big changes after the script was done. If the rumor is true, which we'll probably never get confirmation out, just out of professionalism. But to make budget cuts on their most valuable IP is a scary thought. Ryan Condal has spoke frequently about how he wants to honor Martin's work, but his actions this season says otherwise. Regardless of the bullshit behind the scenes, a half-baked season was served to us, with only 1 truly jaw-dropping episode, The Red Dragon and the Gold. Episode 4 is perfect from start to end, up there with the best episodes of the first season and even Game of Thrones in its prime, but every other episode was plagued with serious writing problems, including the 2 other episodes that I thoroughly enjoyed. Yes, everything still looks pretty, but that only adds to good scenes. Who cares if Alicent swimming in a lake by a forest had stunning cinematography, when we're wondering why the little runtime we have is wasted on filler moments? It was already very clear she regrets her part in convincing Aegon to usurp his sister's throne. The internet was going wild about the season premiere's shocking murder of a Targaryen child, but little Jaehaerys was barely a character. Even the writers know how empty of a plot tool the child was, so tried to make a quick cute scene before the beheading. His death was supposed to be a tool to change Helena's character. This should have been her season, especially with all the downtime, prepping for all-out war. Helaena was set up to be extremely powerful and interesting in the first season. She was never a dragon dreamer in the books that we know, but somehow there's less of her shown in House of Dragon than the lore. So many changes just didn't make sense. The promotional material, teasers and trailers hyped up a Stark appearing beside Jaehaerys Velaryon, the Wolf of the North, Lord Cregan. Perfect for the neglected prince, Jaehaerys, to have something to do for once. Then went and cut all the cool stuff he does in the north. Helaena and Cregan were the easiest layups for writers to make for a good few scenes. The season premiere, A Son for a Son, wasn't all that impactful. I wouldn't even call it a good episode, just decent. Memorable, yes, because we just sat there listening to a 4-year-old's beheading with a knife. But I will say, besides the amazing 4th episode, Aegon's entire character arc across the season was a pleasant surprise. The one good change from the books is making this terrible king likable. The writers did it with his father King Viserys and outdid themselves with Aegon's character. Daemon's interactions with Alice Rivers was also a big change from the lore that says no character ever saw them come across one another. I was so happy to see her magic mess with his head, but out of all his prophetic visions, only one was even remotely interesting. The rest became stale and repetitive. That could have been cut and nothing would have changed. The one with Viserys was just essentially a flashback from the last season. That was one of the biggest issues with this season. Dialogue between characters were so repetitive. Rhaenyra, Daemon, Jaehaerys, Alicent, Corlys Velaryon, Baela, Rhaena were all so damn boring to watch. There was so little progress for their characters, just a whole lot of whining. Then out of nowhere, Helaena, after being off-screen forever, reveals herself to be the most powerful dragon dreamer ever, entering the minds of others like a green dreamer or someone using magical glass candles, which very few use in the books to communicate across the world. Little Jaehaerys' death should have kicked off a new plotline for the Green's Queen, but she just doesn't care. Everyone forgets and acts like nothing happened. Shoehorning her little brother Daeron also made no sense, however you want to look at it. Can't blame this on HBO cutting 2 episodes from the budget. Daeron wasn't mentioned a single time in the first season. More poor planning. They were just trying to find a way to smoothly cut him from the show like they did Aegon and Helena's youngest son, but changed their mind with the plot holes that could have arisen in the future. The second episode, revolving around the Cargyle twins, who were forced to fight one another, was alright, but brought down by forcing a relationship between Alicent and Criston Cole, just days after the death of King Viserys. The show tries so hard to make Alicent likable and more fleshed out than in the books, but the end result was just an annoying character taking screen time away from her more interesting family. The dynamic between Alicent and Larys was more than enough to add hypocrite to her list of characteristics. They made a great character from almost nothing in the lore. In the Green's Master of Whispers, Larys Strong. More build-up between Larys and Aemond before their immediate falling out would have been a million times more beneficial than Alicent talking to Aemond. Aegon's anger in the second episode was so believable, executed by the actor masterfully. Even the show making the whole child murder not truly Daemon's plan made sense. This all transitions into Aemond's wild story, who like Aegon was actually written well. The progression of his poor treatment and neglect from the entire family was nice and steady, ultimately leading to an attempted murder on his own brother, the king, with very few knowing the truth. Believable because even in the books, the chaos on the ground below the 3 dragons fighting above made it hard to make out what was going on. Episode 3 had so much promise. The opening scene with the Battle of the Burning Mill had it all, showcased the lack of leadership in the Riverlands, reinforced by how deep the rivalry between the Brackens and House Blackwood runs, all while not wasting much time on a scene where no notable characters take part in. A beautiful edit. Fleshing out how Strong and Harrenhal was great. Who doesn't love the Castellan, Uncle Simon Strong, while also building up Larys' connection to his own relatives. The mysterious Alice Rivers had everyone's curiosity going wild. But then the episode ends with the insanely stupid scene with Rhaenyra secretly meeting up with Alicent, like in some dumb Looney Tunes sketch. The Black Queen Rhaenyra, who's on everyone's mind at King's Landing, just walks into one of the city's landmark buildings by casually covering her hair. Somehow, nobody notices her, gets this close to the Queen Dowager Alicent, and has a suspiciously long conversation without a single guard asking questions. Rhaenyra's Master of Whispers, Mysaria, has a spy network in King's Landing. Why not use them as messengers instead? What a train wreck to an almost great episode. For everything good the writers did this season, something had to come along to put a sour taste in your mouth. Cut that one dumb encounter, and we're talking about the second best episode in the season, especially with that haunting bullying scene between King Aegon and little brother Aemond. The last time Aegon was to laugh at his punching bag. Years of being treated badly led to episode 4. Episode 5 and 6 were just used as a come down from episode 4 and build up for the 7th episode. Not sure what that scene with Rhaenyra and Mysaria was. They cut Nettles from the show, a character I, and I'm sure many others, were really looking forward to. And instead gives Rhaenyra being unfaithful because the girl Daemon cheats with is out. Episode 7 was a lot more entertaining than most, just behind episode 3 for me. But again, they found a way to slip in something stupid that just wouldn't make sense in any universe. The sowing of the dragon seed was a lot of fun, showcasing the very distinct personalities of the older dragons, Vermithor and Silverwing. Yes, it lacked any suspense with who would make it alive, but it was clever to make Ulf fall and stumble across Silverwing by accident, while Hugh was bonding with Vermithor front and center. Rhaena in the Vale was painful to watch. This is the storyline we get instead of little badass Nettles. They've combined both Rhaena and Nettles' plotlines from the books into one, but took away the best parts of both. Just unfortunate. Episode 8, the finale, was sad. Inconsistencies were hard to watch. Plot conveniences just ran rampant, and I'll just pretend once again the whole Tywin Lannister negotiations didn't even happen because it was so out of place. What are we doing skipping good bits of the lore for this? Rhaena has seemingly been missing for a day, maybe days, with how thirsty and dirty she appears. And there it is, the Wild Dragon Sheep Stealer. Cool design on its appearance. But again, distracting us with something shiny won't work with such a problematic episode and season. 2 big moments happen in the lackluster finale. Daemon's final vision served by the witch Alice Rivers. It was a lot. I bet HBO was furious when this moment leaked on TikTok 5 days before the episode aired. It was creative for once, as far as Daemon's visions go, but still could have gone deeper. A big inconsistency for me was how quickly Daemon changed his tone towards kneeling before his queen and accepting his role as just her consort, never to be the king of the 7 kingdoms. All because he saw a White Walker. When has Daemon ever been a hero? He's straight up a villain in the show, far worse than the book's counterpart. The second big moment, controversial meeting between Rhaenyra and Alicent. This time swapping roles, with Alicent sneaking to Dragonstone, and it was just as dumb as the first time, except this is what they want to leave this season on. How can anyone think this is an appropriate tone for Alicent to carry, just nodding at the notion of the death of her sons? I don't think opening the gates for Rhaenyra is all that bad of an idea as a change for the show, but agreeing that Aegon, Aemond, and Daeron would have to die at this point for Rhaenyra to safely take back what was supposed to be inherited is just so inconsistent. When just a couple weeks back, one of her arguments for usurping the Iron Throne was to prevent Rhaenyra from killing all the Greens that could have put a claim for her crown. Alicent didn't even try to fight for them being sent to the wall instead or exiled. Too soon to talk about Aegon's dragon, Sunfire, being dead like he believes. Surely hope he's being misled, but I'll hold off until season 3. I've been seeing some compare this season to Game of Thrones' final season, not even close. That was damn near unwatchable. Season 2 of House of Dragon had tons of great moments, just had nearly as many poor decisions. A 6.5 out of 10 is where I'm sitting on it, hard carried by episode 4. Book fans will definitely be more critical than me out of principle after big changes to source material, but I look forward to hearing all your guys' thoughts. See you later.